Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. I'm standing in my grandfather's wood shop. He's a shaker reproduction woodworker, and growing up has always created beautiful pieces of craftsmanship and art. And I'm starting a series doing something that I've wanted to do for the longest time. And now, because of this channel, I have an excuse to come down once a month, spend time with my grandfather, and learn the art of woodworking, or box making specifically. In this series, you're going to watch me go from simple little box joints, which we have on display here, all the way up to fancier dovetail cuts and so on and so forth, as I start transforming my personal board game collection into a custom landscape of handcrafted wooden boxes. I hope you enjoy the show, and I hope you stick with me as this process begins, because this has been something that, for me, is probably one of the most exciting things this channel has given me the opportunity to do. So, let's get started. So we're back for another episode as I learn how to make handcrafted boxes from this guy. Grandpa, say hi.
Hey!
He's not excited about being on camera, but that's okay, because we're just going to film him without his... He is slightly camera shy. Today we're working on, well, 3 different games, with the priority being a beautiful box for Wingspan, because this same week we're doing the full deluxeified upgrade of Wingspan, which is something you need to check out. But we have Mind MGMT, we have Caesar and Blitzkrieg. They're going to go in the same box. We just needed to use a different alternative cover. And Wingspan is here, and this is going to be the featured game. So, let's get started, I suppose.
We'll do a box joint on this one, right?
We're doing a box joint. So part of what we've started discussing is what styles of boxes we want to do with each of the different pieces. Because part of this is learning, and part of this is making nice boxes. Grandfather's opinion is that I am all thumbs and not skilled enough to do anything but a box joint at the moment. So we're going to...
Even a kindergartner doesn't start with doing atomic physics. You learn slowly as you go. It's not that you're all thumbs.
I'm mostly
it's
thumbs.
That you're all inexperienced.
So we're going to start with a box joint for the Wingspan. I'm hoping to use a pretty wood for it. And then I want to start working on something fancy for my very first time doing Mind MGMT, because it's one of the best games of the year. And it's also something that is already so deluxe inside. I'm going to start learning how to do my own dovetails, which is a much more complicated cut than a box joint on a table saw. Grandpa, what wood did you suggest we use for these so far? We have 3 kind of starting woods, right?
I would start with poplar,
okay,
or pine, or oak would be okay, simply because they aren't going to be terribly expensive, and if you goof up on something, then you can throw it away.
All thumbs comment again. I get it.
All thumbs and a little bit of hair.
Just a touch. Just a little bit. So the all thumb idea got thrown out real quick, because Grandpa also likes making fancy designs. So the idea now is to do a miter cut, which is going to be a 45-degree angle with both sides glued together. And then it has to sit for a while, right, Grandpa?
It has to sit until the glue sets.
Okay, and then what are we doing to make it fancy?
Putting in different sizes of splines in the corners.
So splines are the things that help squeeze and hold it together, but those can be different types of wood as well, which make it pretty, right?
Different kind of woods and different sizes, yeah.
Cool. Sounds neat to me. Let's try it.
That square again.
He's trusting me with power tools, and we're cutting the miter joint, so we had to turn this at a 45-degree angle, and we're cutting it for the... all 4 corners of the Wingspan box. And what type of wood is this we're using, Grandpa?
This is poplar.
Poplar wood. So you just measured 11 3/4?
Yep.
Now, how do I make sure that that's the line I'm cutting on as you go across the table?
Well, another thing you'll have to notice is you have to turn the board around.
Oh, because it's got to be different. It's got to be the opposite
angle, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would have made that mistake 7 times. So how do you make sure that that's the point where you're cutting?
Well, you pretty much just eye it. See, what I'm doing now is I'm trying to turn the blade so I get one of these teeth right next to the wood.
Okay.
And then I'm just eyeing to see where it's going to cut.
He told me I have to wear these. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
quite on that line.
Let me see how far off you were. Okay, but now the thing is you can slide this over just a little bit and
Okay.
recut it and get it closer to the line.
Is that what you do next?
That's what I'm doing next.
All right, go ahead. So, Grandpa,
Yes.
can you show me the boards we just cut and talk about what the next step is?
Yeah, we want to get these boards glued together, miter to miter, all four at the same time. But in order to do that, I need to lay it out on this bench, and that means I need to clean this bench off. Tell me.
And then we're going to glue these together because we need to let them sit long enough.
Need to sit for probably an hour or before you can
Do we need to sand them before we glue them together?
You have to sand the inside of it, that's right.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about sanding the outside now, but just the inside. And probably I would recommend you do that not with the belt sander. But use this little sander, palm sander, and you'll want to start with, I don't know, maybe 120 grit. I have 100, but those boards are pretty smooth. That's 150.
We are sanding the inside of the box so we can glue these two together. I've got both boxes here that I'm actually working on, but one of these you'll see in the other video already. What are you doing?
Just lining up the grain there.
And then you're going to place tape, what, on the back of them?
I'm going to put tape on this, yep. Then flip it over. That doesn't go there. It's not going to work. I'm just going to put a little glue on the dish. Just to get some down there so I can... Okay.
So we have the box taped up and ready to conjoin itself, and all of these pieces are linked together. You have one edge as flush as possible.
Yep.
And now we're going to take a little paintbrush and...
Well, the little glue brush, you can get these from various tool supply or woodworking supply stores. But it's good to have a little brush for this job. I won't use it on there. But you don't want to get too much glue here because once again it's the squeeze out problem. And I keep these brushes around, but once I've used it, it goes into a jar with a little bit of water in it so the glue doesn't dry and ruin the brush. I'll have glue on them. So I'm just gonna...
And there's the
wrap it up.
shape of the wingspan box coming together. Now you don't need to clamp it or anything?
No. I need another little piece of tape here though. Now you don't need to clamp this because the tape will hold it until that glue has set enough to work with it. And I will get that big tri-square, engineer square, and check the squareness of the box, but I think it's going to be okay.
So we just ran to Lowe's to grab a few other pieces of wood, and wood's expensive. I never realized just how much it was priced, but we grabbed some oak, and we grabbed some more ash, I think. Don't remember. Whatever it is we've been using already. Is it poplar? Poplar is what it is. I grabbed some oak to do another miter joint on it. One of those that we do the fancy design on the side that we're already doing for the wingspan box. And then I got some a poplar to start learning how to do a dovetail joint and maybe another box joint. So that's the plan. Part of a big deal for me right now, I'm doing the first stuff in the shop on my own. I've learned enough to start doing the cuts here on these oak boards, so I need to get the measurements set in place. Need to go through and make sure they match up with the box, and then we're going to try to do the full process, the miter cut, the mortar cut, or the miter cuts, and then gluing them up to 90-degree angles so Grandpa and I can do some fancier stuff after he gets done with lunch. I just got finished making the cuts for the Mind MGMT box, which is another one that I'm working on, and I'm actually kind of proud of myself because it's a different shaped box. So far we've been doing all square ones, and this one required 2 different types of cuts. I think they all match up appropriately. I was careful, I measured multiple times. I'm gonna go ahead and get it glued together, and hopefully Grandpa will be impressed with the fact that I made it work. Or I didn't make it work, and he'll never see this segment. I almost forgot to sand this, which is good that I caught it, because it's really hard to get the middle of it smooth beforehand. Alright, so just like Grandpa did with the other one, and I'm pausing my headphones, I'm laying this out how it needs to fold up. I'm going to go ahead and tape the back of it, and then hopefully spin it around, and I will have another box ready to glue up. So, we will see. Pressure's on, right? And then Grandpa said tape is cheap, so he doesn't worry about doing a nice long piece down the center here. So, let's see. Flip it over. Okay. And this should fold up into a box. Hey, look at that! That is going to be the first one I have done without any help. So let me go ahead and get glue in there, and that'll be a wrap. Well, except for all the extra little details, you know, a lid, polishing, sanding, waxing, oiling, the cool inserts that go into, will make it a finished box. I mean, that's a step, right? That's step one. I don't know what you'd call it, but I'd call that pretty darn good start of a box. I was able to get all the cuts right. It's one of these weird shapes. You see, the one we're doing for wingspan is a square, so that was all the same. We just had to get the order of operation right, whereas this one, well, I'm not going to lift it up, but you can see this one is actually a rectangle, which, I don't know, for me, that feels like a bit of an accomplishment. Now it's time to sand the other box we're working on in the earlier video. All right, the next step for this little guy is fully glued together now. We have a box. It's gonna come down to sanding, polishing, and some of the finishing details to really make this one wrap up. The first step is to get all of these edges evened out so that we can give it a nice finish all around. So let's get started with the belt sander. Let's hope I don't mess this up. So Grandpa and I were just chopping along. We're doing well. We've glued some boxes together. We're on our 4th box. And then Grandma came outside. And what did she discover?
That the boxes weren't quite square.
Not quite square. We're missing, I don't know, a difference of a whole, what, quarter?
No, maybe a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch.
A 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch. And then what else did we realize about the board game boxes? We did all of our measurements precise.
precise measurements, but we measured the inside of the box and cut that as if it should be the outside of the box. So we now have a box that's about an inch too small.
No, not a box. We currently have 3 boxes that are all about an inch too small for the board games. So we're gonna take a look, and we're probably gonna still finish these boxes off, and then lesson learned and get started on the next ones. That's part of the process. Grandpa has to learn somehow. All right, it's the next morning. I picked up some more lumber yesterday because we didn't quite get everything right. We did some measurements a little bit wrong, which means we can correct them today. Filmed with Max from Table Nuts, and now we're heading back out to the workshop to well, keep getting some work done. So I think it's going well. Part of the process I'm learning, when you do a whole series of boxes and none of them quite fit right, you have to run to Lowe's a little bit. Grandpa's cleaning something down the back, I'm running to Lowe's, and hopefully we'll get all this stuff finished up. This little guy is still coming along. We got back from Lowe's and we're still working on this wingspan box. Now, we cut it wrong to start with, so now we're recutting a few boards so the box can actually fit inside of the new custom wooden box. And we got another piece of matching poplar, and I'm going to go ahead and get this cut finished so that we're ready to go ahead and do the glue up and well, get the box almost done. All right, so we're working on this wingspan box, making it out of poplar, and I went ahead and got all 4 boards cut. Now, these are all going to be even, and we messed up the measurements for the first board, but now we have a set that'll allow the game box to actually fit down inside, which is the objective. I'm going to go ahead and get these glued up and then continue planning away. Now, we actually have a whole pile of other boxes that we've done. It's just because we cut them a little bit wrong. These here, all of these are actually going to be leftover boxes. So we need to finish them up still. And maybe we'll, I don't know, send them out or give them to some people or something. But we also have a quick look at the box from Mind MGMT getting finished up as well. Very excited. All right, we're still making progress. The wingspan box is all taped up and ready to go. I think we're planning to do some dovetail joints on the router, which is going to be a fancy little way to kind of conjoin the sections. We have the lid over here. Grandpa took the time to go ahead and get the lid, the top and bottom glued together. Basically, you have 2 thinner pieces of what is it? Whatever the wood we're using. And he took a rig, and this is going to make the top and bottom. We're going to attach them to it and then cup them off, so you use either a friction joint or a hinge or something to kind of control the rise and lift. So hopefully that'll work. The plan now is to pop inside and start talking with Grandma about how we do some of the refinement until Grandpa gets tired or gets done being tired and comes back outside, and then we'll hopefully finish up the wingspan box before I have to hit the road. And then the other ones will be in the next episode. Grandpa got the top done, and you glued these 3 pieces together, right? Can we pick it up?
Correct. Oh, yeah.
So these 3 pieces, and now we need to trim this to go on the top and bottom. Talk about how this is going to work.
Well, it's just going to be a piece cut to the same dimensions as the outside dimensions of the box.
Okay.
And then one piece will be glued onto the bottom, and the other piece you say you're going to use magnets to hold it on the top.
Are we going to use magnets on this, or are we going to use...
Right. Magnets just hold it after we cut the top. That's correct.
So we're going to attach both to the box, so it'll be a closed box, cut through the box, and then actually use magnets on the thicker part to hold it down.
Right.
Okay. All right. Sounds like a plan.
Right about there. And then we're going to, if we put 2 down here, We're going to have to make sure we space them so that the space between this dovetail and that dovetail minus the cut is the same. You get what I'm talking about?
Yep.
It'll be, if we space them exactly even before we cut the top, then we'll end up having the top two dovetails a little closer together than the bottom two.
And it'll look funny.
It looked different, but it still would be okay. It's just, I think, better to have them evenly spaced once the box is done.
Okay.
I'm going to cut this a little bit long, and then you'll have to sand that edge off.
That's not the right side, is it?
Pardon?
Okay.
What'd you say? It's not right?
No, it's right. Now we gotta
Line up this one edge here.
So we have the wingspan box here. We sanded all of these sides flat. And the goal now is to go ahead and do dovetail cuts with a router jig. Now I want to learn how to do handmade dovetail cuts in the future. But for now we're going to make it look fancy without it being too complicated. Just a little bit of a, fancy piece of equipment. Now the first thing I need to do is make sure our stage here, I can feel that it's going to catch on that. So I need to go ahead and run it through without the box in there first. So we'll turn this on.
No, move it first.
Move it?
Yeah, move, pick it up.
Oh, okay, like that.
There you go.
I was trying to figure out how to do that. So now that is set up to go ahead and make these cuts.
You slide your jig back to the right.
You always do it from the right?
Oh yeah, right.
Okay.
Because of the way the router bit turns, it makes a better cut if you're going in that direction.
And this is set up as a 90-degree angle, and we're just going to go flush on both sides and just cut right across. So. A bit of a dovetail cut here, which we'll put pieces into. And then I'm going to go ahead and do it on the other side, and then we're going to measure for where it's going to go in the middle.
It's called a dovetail spline joint.
A dovetail spline.
Right.
Sounds very fancy. A bit of an update. Grandpa's working on learning how to make the splines, which you said is more complicated than you assumed.
I've never made them before.
Okay, so good start. And then I sanded the top of the box there, and it's time to go ahead and do the glue up. So we're going to put down a thin layer of glue, and then we're going to clamp every corner inside of it to really kind of squeeze it on there. And then it'll take about an hour to set up.
At least that, yeah.
Okay, and hopefully we'll have the splines done between then and now. We can cut the middle out of it. Odds of this box being done before I go back, getting lower and lower, but we're still going to try. So we didn't figure out the cuts. We're going to go look at the book.
Books always help.
Books sometimes help, and oh, that abomination is, was the top being glued on. But with 16 clamps and apparently it being unbalanced, we got that on video. This is all part of the process, right, Grandpa?
I've done it before, and it'll probably happen again, but it's always disappointing when it does happen.